What's up, everybody? It's Megan here with Student Loan Planner, and today we're going to talk about three ways we can reduce debt or three ways we can reduce your student loan payment if you're a veterinarian with student loan debt. And I'll explain the variation here in a second. But the average balance for a veterinarian that we work with is about $285,000, which is not chump change. That is a big balance, especially if the median vet salary or vet income is about 103,000. It might be a little outdated, but that is the median as of within the past year or so. So what that means is our balance is quite high compared to our income. So this can cause quite a bit of stress and anxiety and just negative feelings towards our financial situation and our debt in particular. And unfortunately, student loan debt is sometimes the first introduction that you have to personal finance. And it's not fun, right? It's not nice. It's not warm and fuzzy. So it's quite intimidating to figure out how the heck am I going to get out of this situation. And historically, we have been taught over and over again to pay down debt really aggressively, get it out of the way as soon as possible. We should be eating beans and potatoes until all of our debt is gone, and then we can start saving, then we can start our lives, that kind of thing. And so that means that there's a lot of like shame around having debt. Having student loan debt is maybe some folks will consider it an exception. I certainly do, because you could not be a vet without those loans, right? You can't budget your way into vet school. And it's just really difficult to do that if you don't have the funds to pay outright, which a lot of folks don't. So you are not alone if you're watching this video really just trying to grasp and figure out what the heck do I do with my situation. You came to the right place. We're going to talk about a lot of different options that you have. This is not going to crush you. This student loan debt is not going to crush you. We are going to talk about some real strategies on how to get yourself on the right path and be able to focus on other financial goals as well, which is a huge plus, right? The student loan debt doesn't have to be the focus of your financial life forever. So let's jump into things. One thing I want to mention is just, vet school is also not getting less expensive at this point. It seems to be growing at a rate greater than inflation. Inflation historically has been about like 3% year to year. We're seeing the average tuition cost growing year to year by about 4.86%. That's the last statistic that we have there. And really, when it comes to graduating and looking at your student loans, we've got to decide, are we paying these loans off? Or are we going towards loan forgiveness? So that's what this first visual here will say is, let's figure out how we need to be treating our student loans in the first place, because you can fit yourself in one of two buckets. And that's going to be crucial to know, because the like life of your student loan plan will come down to what is the right path to be starting on today, and what do I need to commit to more long term to save the most money, save the most time, save the most headache, right? So one of two buckets you need to be filtering yourself into. We either need to be paying the loans off more aggressively, so treating it like a debt, right? So if our income is greater than our student loan balance, that means, let's say your income is about 125,000 and your student loan balance is 75,000. Great. 75,000 is way less than the average that we typically see. So that's amazing. But if that's the case, you should probably be treating your loans more like a debt and paying the loans off. And that would be where, well, we'll talk about some tips on how to reduce debt here next. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So put yourself in that bucket if those facts are true. But if you are having the reverse situation, if your income is a lot less than your student loan debt balance, we want to be considering being more passive towards our loan situation, which might sound a little confusing, but there are income-driven repayment plans that they base the payment off of a derivative of your income, and each one of those income driven plans has a forgiveness threshold where it says, hey, you're not going to be paying this forever. You get on this plan, you pay based on income, and whatever is left after either 20 or 25 years is then going to be forgiven. So whatever balance is left is then forgiven. If you're working in public service, like a nonprofit or a government entity, you could be done a little sooner, in 10 years, through a program called public service loan forgiveness. So look into that if that's applicable. But regardless, if our income is a lot less than our student loan balance, let's say our income is 125, but our student loan balance is 285, right? That's not low income. 125 is great, but our student loan balance is really high. So if that's the case, then we should probably be considering this passive approach to figure out, okay, does forgiveness help me achieve this goal of paying the loans, or, taking care of the loans efficiently? If yes, great. And then I think there's also some side benefits to that as well, which we're going to talk about here coming up. So that's what we need to be starting out on. Figure out, where are we at? What bucket are we in? Now, if we are someone who's going to be paying the loans off, then of course there's going to be ways that we want to reduce our student loan debt as efficiently and as quickly as possible. So the 3 quick hitter ways that we can reduce our student loan debt if we're trying to pay those loans off, that's if our balance is less than our income, then we need to be minimizing interest any way we can. So if you're in school, you can try to be paying interest along the way. Like while you're in school, if you have a part-time job or some income coming in, you can be paying towards the interest that's accruing when you're in school, because the loans do inevitably accrue interest while you're in school, in that in-school forbearance time, and also in the grace period, the 6 months post-graduation. So that's a way to help reduce how much interest is growing on the balance, so you end up paying less interest in the long run. But you can also try to strategically use the income-driven plans that have interest subsidies or interest discounts. So for example, the SAVE plan, which I know there's a lot of debate about that plan right now, but the SAVE plan and what it formerly, what it had replaced, formerly known as Repay, both have interest subsidies, which discount the accruing interest over time. So what that means is, if you have an income-driven payment, but your payment based on income is really low, and let's say it's $100, that's your payment, but your interest cost per month is $1,000, but your plan is to pay the loans off. So you can get on that income-driven plan strategically, have that $100 payment, and then the interest subsidy on SAVE in particular waives all of that unpaid interest. So you pay your $100 payment, $900 goes unpaid, and it gets waived by that SAVE plan. Now, if Repay comes back into the picture because SAVE goes away, Repay waives half of the accruing interest. So that's pretty darn good too, where we're reducing the amount of interest that's growing on the balance, or that is affecting our pay down. And we could use that strategically by taking advantage of that subsidy and then paying extra after that subsidy hits. That way, our effective interest rate is really low, actually. If you do the math, it could be a lot lower than what your actual interest rate is. So this could be super helpful, even if you can't pay a ton in the first couple of years of your repayment, but this could be helpful to reduce your interest cost over time, strategically using one of those income-driven plans to minimize and reduce your interest cost. So that's one way. Another way is to pay extra towards the loans. I had mentioned that just a moment ago. So if you pay extra towards your loans, you're going to be speeding up the timeline it takes to to have the debt around. And that's going to inevitably reduce your interest cost and reduce the time that you have to pay these things back. So paying extra, if and when you can really go a long way in reducing your debt more efficiently. And ways you could do that. One, I think it starts with a budget, which I know that word is cringeworthy. I know budget sucks, but think about a budget more so as a way to say yes to other things, right? We're saying no to some things, or we're reducing or cutting expenses in certain areas to say yes to something else more important or more impactful in your financial plan. That's how I want you to think about it. Don't think about it as limiting. Think about it as something that's really providing you the ability to achieve your financial goals faster and saving money along the way. So pay extra if you can, reduce that debt as fast as you can to reduce the interest cost, get you out of debt faster. And then the last little thing I'll mention here, which could also kind of tie in the first two as well, is refinancing. So refinancing is taking your student loans to a private student loan company. And there's many of them out there. Check out our website. We've got a list of, we track them on an ongoing basis to see where their interest rates are. So just go to studentloanplanner.com, go to the refinance my loan tab, and then you'll see some options that we have listed there that we're currently tracking. But basically they pay off, this private company would pay off your student loans wherever they are right now. And you'd ideally want to get a lower interest rate. That is the whole purpose of refinancing, is to try to get a lower interest rate, and you can restructure the debt itself. So that means you can choose your term for how long it's going to take you to pay the loans off, all the way out to like 20 years. I think that's the maximum that they've got right now. So go refinance, reduce the interest rate, choose a term that you can commit to. So something that you know every single month you'll be able to pay the monthly payment for, and pay extra if you can. That'll minimize your interest by paying extra and by getting that lower interest rate by refinancing. So those are three quick and dirty ways to reduce your student loan debt if your plan is to pay those loans off. Let's talk about if that's not the plan, though, right? Because a lot of folks are not going to be in that bucket, right? Let's go back there real quick, where if our balance is greater than our income, oops, my head is in the way. Let's see if I can get it out. There we go. If our balance is greater than our income, then we actually are going to be in a position where we need to be considering a forgiveness path. It might mathematically make sense to be considering forgiveness instead of paying the loans off. And we're going to go through an example here in a second, because I know like me saying this might resonate because other people have talked about it possibly, or you've heard about it from like other students or colleagues. But I'm going to show you the math on this here in a moment. So I'm going to introduce 3 ways to reduce your student loan payment, which the folks that are on a pay down approach, right, that's not the goal. We don't want to reduce the student loan payment, if we're trying to pay the loans off. But if we're going towards loan forgiveness, we would want to reduce that student loan payment as much as possible. That payment's based on income, and we want to try to pay as little as possible towards those loans to maximize how much we can get forgiven later. It's a totally different ballgame, totally different mindset. I know it's a weird thought process because we've never been taught to think about debt like this, to be passive with it, right? But in this case, we have the opportunity to do so. It might mathematically make a lot more sense to do so if we're in that bucket. So 3 ways to reduce the student loan payments. We know an income-driven plan is obviously based on income, but it pulls through the adjusted gross income from your most recently filed tax return. So this is it's line 11 right now on the 2023 tax return, the most recent return as of this video. And there are ways that you can reduce your income without trying to get paid less, because I don't want you to do that, right? That might be what first popped into your head, like, oh, well, I don't want to make less. I don't want to take a lower paying job. I don't want to not ask for a pay raise or not ask for bonuses. Like, that is not what I'm saying. Like, I don't want you to make less, but there are strategic ways that can make it look like you make less and also be doing something really productive with your income. And that has to do with this first bullet point. So we can be contributing to HSAs, which stands for Health Savings Account, FSAs, a Flex Savings Account, or a 401k, or any type of pre-retirement plan that your employer provides. So it could also be like a simple IRA or a SEP IRA if you're at a smaller practice. These pre-tax buckets, what that means is we contribute to these and we defer paying taxes on them. So they basically say, okay, we're deferring this income for later. And the health savings account, it's deferring money into a savings bucket for health related expenses. So you can use later, not in retirement necessarily. Could be, but you could use health savings account funds at any point. FSA funds you have to use within the year. So that's important to know about FSAs. But 401ks, simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, retirement accounts, we can't touch until 59 and a half. But retirement is also going to be the biggest bill of your life. You think the student loans are a big bill right now. Retirement is a big bill. So we need a big ramp to start saving for that. So contributing to those things, though, are going to benefit you your future self. So it's really like taking care of your future self if you think about it that way. It reduces your tax liability today, so it helps save us money on taxes now, but it also reduces your student loan payment because your student loan payment is based off of that adjusted gross income. And if we're deferring income until later, it's not factoring in that income today. We're going to reduce our student loan payment today, which is awesome. So it's really like a win-win-win, right? We're winning because we're saving for our future self, our future needs. A win because we're saving on taxes today, and a win because we're saving on our student loan payments if we're going towards loan forgiveness. So pretty cool. Definitely be contributing to those things. The next thing up here is tax filing status. So MFS, that stands for married filing separately versus married filing jointly. So married filing separately, this, you might be wondering, like, what the heck? Why does this even matter? When it comes to talking about student loan payments? Well, if you are basing a payment off of your income and you are married, if you file taxes jointly, your student loan payment is going to be based off of joint income. And I know that is not fair. It's dumb. Why did they build it that way? I don't know. But that is how the student loan legislation was written. If we're filing taxes married jointly with a spouse and they earn income, that spouse's income is going to be factored into our payment equation. It pulls it straight from that tax return. So a strategic way that we can reduce the student loan payment is to file taxes married but separately. This is a lot of times what we're talking about with folks to figure out like how to efficiently get to forgiveness and also like make it fair, right? Because you probably go into this marriage with the understanding that the student loans are yours. Or we go into the marriage thinking, hey, I am going to go towards forgiveness, but shoot, now I don't know if I want to get married because I don't want my payment to go high. I've literally had folks tell me that, like, I'm scared to get married because I don't want my payment to skyrocket. Well, good news is we can file taxes separately. And as of right now, any of the income-driven plans will allow you to keep that payment off of just your income. That's huge because that can kind of save the situation where you don't have to be scared about getting married. We're just going to be filing separately, which is kind of the equivalent of filing single anyways. So, same thing in a way. There are some tax benefits that we miss out on by filing separately, but if we look at your plan holistically, filing separately could make a lot of sense because we're saving a lot in the student loan payments. And even if it costs us a little bit to file separately compared to joint, we're still saving enough to warrant that cost, or at least you should be. That's something that you need to be assessing with either a CPA or a planner, or someone like us, student loan planner. We can help you walk through that. We also have a calculator on our website for this, calculating married filing separate to married filing jointly. So go check that out on studentloanplanner.com. Now, the last little tidbit here, another way to reduce your student loan payments, it has to do with taxes too. It's extending your tax filings. This might sound a little funny, but we could also get pretty strategic with extending our tax return, which, so let's back up. When you are on an income-driven plan, every 12 months, you are supposed to update your income with the student loan system. They say, hey, it's time for you to recalculate your payment. Please complete this application, or it'll pull through your tax return to recalculate your payment. Now, it always goes off of the most recently filed tax return unless you need to submit alternative documentation of income for some reason, but it usually, and it's easiest to go off of the most recent tax return on file. Normal tax filing deadline is April 15th of every year, but you can extend your taxes to October 15th, as late as October 15th for any reason. It's basically just saying, hey, IRS, here's my draft return. I'm not ready to file it yet, but I'm going to file it before October 15th. We can strategically use this because let's say your IDR, income driven repayment anniversary to update your income is like September of this year. And last year's income, so right now we're in 2024, but let's say, 2023's income was higher than what 2022's tax return said, right? So we're thinking a couple years back. 2022's income was lower. And typically that's how it is. Our income is lower, and then each year we kind of inch up over time unless something interesting happened. We switch jobs or something like that. So we could strategically extend your 2023 taxes. That way we don't have to file it until October 15th. And when they say, hey, September's here, we need you to update your income, you can link back to your 2022 tax return, that prior tax, that's the most recent tax return on file right now. So that is one strategic way that we could kind of use the tax deadlines in our favor to reduce what our student loan payment's going to be by just extending when we're filing the most recent one. That way we could use older income, lower income. That's totally kosher, totally allowed to do. Let's talk about a couple examples because we're talking about a lot of things conceptually. Sometimes it's good to see it on paper. Example, we're going to take a look at a pretty average situation for a veterinarian where we've got a balance of about 285,000. Our income is about 75,000 starting out with some pretty good growth over the earlier years of our career. So we'll talk about that here coming up. And we've got an average interest rate of about 7%. Let's say we graduated last year and we're starting repayment, but we graduated last year. Maybe we got started with repayment last year. We don't work in a public service environment. We've got just graduate school loans and we're single. We'll keep it pretty easy. So last year's income, 2023, let's say that was the year that we graduated. So we really only had half a year of income because we started work maybe July, August, something like that. Maybe our starting balance is our starting salary is 75,000 for the year. So half of that would be about 37,000 for 2023. So that should be what shows up on our tax return for the 2023 tax year. This year, we'll have a full year of our new salary, 75,000. And then, like I mentioned, we'll assume that we have some pretty good income bumps. Maybe we get production pay or we're starting to take on more of a caseload. So our income quickly gets closer to that median vet salary that I talked about earlier on, where it's about 103,000. So we're getting closer. I put it a little over that. And then we continue to grow, but maybe not as aggressively in our later years after we've gotten ourselves established. So what's one thing that we need to remember? Well, this person's balance is greater than their income. So we should be considering a passive approach, probably not paying the loans off, but let's put some numbers to it. The calculations tab will show us the different payment amounts, and these are the plans that are available today. The save plan is under some real big scrutiny right now, so we'll see what this looks like. But the alternative, what it took over for is repay, the revised pay-as-you-earn plan. And this may come back if save gets repealed. This might be what comes back later, but we also have old IBR, also new IBR could be eligible, or this person could be eligible for new IBR, which is also the same as the pay plan, but the pay plan has sunset. That plan has gone away. We can't enroll in that plan for new enrollment. We can for new IBR, though, as long as we didn't have any loans before July 2014. Now, save, the monthly payment is going to be the cheapest over here. So in the first year, it's going to go off of 2023's taxes. Remember that half of 75,000 for the year. So the payment's about $30. Next year, it's going to be about $334 off of the 75,000 of income. It's a little bit higher on new IBR because the payment calculation is a little different. So 431 versus 334. But we know new IBR will be around forever. It is written into legislation. SAVE is a little more tumultuous in the sense that it could get repealed here soon if things don't go great with some of the arguments that are going through the court system. Old IBR would only be relevant if we had older loans, older than 2014. So this is also written into legislation, but it is an option if we've got older loans. And then if they do away with save, we think they'd have to bring back repay. So this is the repay example, which is the same calculation as new IBR. In this example, save seems to be the cheapest from a payment perspective. We can also take a look at, if we went to go and treat these like a debt and pay these off instead, refinancing would be that route or could be that route where we reduce the interest rate. And in this example, I put in a 20-year term to pay the loans off within. That's the longest we could spread it out for at a 6% interest rate, because that's about average right now. That monthly payment is over $2,000. This is what makes folks kind of pause when they think about, oh, well, yeah, my balance is greater than my income, but I still want to pay it off. Can you still pay it off though, if your income is what it is and the payment would be another mortgage? That's going to really impact how much we can put towards retirement, how much we can put towards other financial goals of yours. That's why I think the income driven plan forgiveness is a safe haven for people. It mathematically can help us in not just the student loan payment from being affordable, but also for being able to afford all of our other financial goals. So this person, could they go and pay the loans off? Yeah, they could. If they were able to shell 2,000 out a month for 20 years, go for it. Go for it, pay it off if you want. Mathematically, it may not make sense. And so let's flip this over. So we're looking at the payments here, but on this main page, we can really start to take a look at what the total cost is overall. There's a lot of numbers on here, but we'll really just zoom in on the save plan for a second because that was what was cheapest at first. And the save plan, when we look at it, payments between now and forgiveness time, which save is a 25-year plan, so 2048 would be that forgiveness timeline in this example. We pay $197,000 towards the loans. We still get $285 forgiven. Why is that? Well, the save plan doesn't allow the interest to grow, so the balance that gets forgiven is what it is today. The payment is never enough to touch the principal. That would be different if we went and started paying $2,000 a month, right? We went and refinanced, we paid it all off within 20 years, so 5 years sooner than the save plan, but look how much more we would pay. $490,000 versus this 311. Now, how did I get to 311 though if I only paid 197 towards the payments? Well, one thing we have to take into account is if we do have a forgiven debt at this time, the balance is considered taxable to you as income. So we also have to factor in this tax bill or bomb, I should say, tax bomb, where we have to pay 114 towards the IRS in the year of forgiveness because this 285 is considered income. And that sounds scary, right? Like, what? That's the catch, isn't it? Yeah, that is the catch. But when we add the payments plus the taxes, the total cost of loan payback is still less than paying the loans off. Even if we went to go pay the loans off in 10 years, eating beans and rice, living at home, and not doing anything for years, 10 years, we could pay 3,300 a month and have it all done in 10 years, but we would have paid 80,000 more, $85,000 more in this example. So no, thank you. I'd rather take what's available, the income driven plan, even if the save plan goes away. If we're eligible for new IBR, we've got this option of the next best option is 367 for the total cost. If save goes away, but repay comes back, that's another option at almost 399. So we're getting close to where those numbers are similar. But this is why, again, the forgiveness path could be a safe haven for folks whose balances are greater than income, where the math points towards just being passive. And the great part about that is it's cost effective. One, that's the most important, right? But also two, which I think I would argue is equally as important, maybe even more important in my opinion, because I'm a financial advisor. But if we're doing, this passive approach, this allows us to pay pretty minimal payments over time. And yeah, we'd want to save up for that tax bill. That could be part of our plan, our goals. But it also allows us to do other things with our money. right? To go open a practice if we wanted to do that, or go purchase a home if we wanted to be a homeowner, to get married, to have kids, to save towards retirement, right? So it allows us to do these different things that maybe a more aggressive plan would not allow us to do because we just wouldn't have the money in the budget for it. Hopefully, this example is helpful. You could certainly run a couple different examples depending on your numbers on our website or if you download this worksheet. But if you have questions about this or you need help navigating this, because this is a lot. This is this is not standard debt stuff, not standard math stuff, right? What's kind of funny is I'm a financial planner by trade, and in our certification education like framework, there's only 2 pages that cover student loan debt out of like thousands of education material that we need to learn to be a financial advisor. Like student loan debt is abnormal, and we probably need to be treating them a little differently if that's the case. And they are. There's a lot of opportunities available that we could take advantage of to really set ourselves up for success, where we're still being responsible and paying the loans off efficiently, but we're also taking care of our future self and being efficient and being cognizant of the give and take of like what the plan is doing to the rest of our finances, you know? So I hope this video is helpful. Hope you're able to take a couple nuggets from it. If you need help, take the simple route and hire us. We can do a one-on-one consultation to really walk you through your plan, the best way to save money on your path towards the loan, either forgiveness or the loan payoff.